Well, calls will keep coming in. Keep them. But we also have an email. So I think we've got an email next. Well, this is from Nick. Nick from Manchester. Can anyone seriously believe that the United States would let Bahrainis rule by themselves while the US has a big military base there and need it protected? Saudi's intervention to suffocate the protests in Bahrain is related to military bases. And of course, the US would always use its proxies in the region, i.e. Saudi Arabia and other GCC countries. Well, I mean, certainly the Fifth Fleet. The Seventh Fleet is in Japan. America has these bases around the world, about 800 of them. It can be confusing. But the Fifth Fleet, based in Bahrain, it runs a lot of the war in Afghanistan, by the way. It's very, very important to the Americans. So to say that isn't a factor would obviously be somewhat naive. And when you talk about the Gulf Cooperation Council, now, for those of you who don't know, that involves Qatar, all the Gulf states there, the oil-rich royalties. Well, you know, of course they work with America because their interest. They get richer, America gets it oil. There's a sort of partnership. To disrupt that is a problem. Now, another call's coming in. Hassan from Woking.
Hi there, Phil.
Hi, Hassan. Salams.
Great to have you on the show. You're doing a fantastic job.
Thank you, mate. Appreciate it.
Okay, if you don't mind, I'd like to take you back to Bahrain for just a moment. The thing with Bahrain at the moment is the Saudis have sent in their troops. They're savaging the Bahrainian Shia majority. Recently, they desecrated a mosque. And I'd like to sort of pick your brains, because I know you're bit of an expert on Hezbollah. I would like to ask you, isn't this reminiscent of how the Israelis had treated Hezbollah when they invaded the south of Lebanon and had launched several attacks on the Shia minority in the south, and how the turning point for Hezbollah came when the mosque or the bombing of Qana took place, and that really reignited the fire within Hezbollah, and therefore they fought back the Israeli army. I mean, do you compare the Bahrainian situation to the Lebanese situation?
Well, to some extent. Obviously, the two attacks on Qana were brutal, highly murderous, you know, and really terrible events. But, you know, it's interesting. You talk about the Sunni-Shia divide, you know, which is true. In Bahrain, there is one. But let me just make a few points on that. And, you know, first of all, I've traveled a lot in, say, the West Bank in Palestine, and it's very interesting that these are Sunnis, and you see on the wall, you see photographs of Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah. He is a hero there, so they don't necessarily look at it in that sectarian way. I mean, Bahrain's a little more complicated in the sense that 70% of the people have been discriminated against, and they are mostly Shia. But the truth is, there are Sunnis who want democracy. The issue is about democracy. The issue is about, should the majority rule, or should this tiny elite who've kept power based on a royalty that has governed for 200 years and their mates and their allies, should they just reap all the rewards from the country? So I think to emphasize the Shia-Sunni debate, while it's a real one, shouldn't really be done too much when it comes to basic principles of democracy. At least that's my view. Next, we have Marcia from London. Pleased to have you on, Marcia. Glad to have another lady.
Hello. Good evening.
Hello, Marcia. Please go ahead. Okay. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I'd like to take on the point that you raised. You said about sugarcoating this intervention. Well, I wrote to the Russian and Chinese embassies, and I told them they're going to regret it, because the sugarcoating you're talking about has been given by those jokers. They are the ones who are giving the what do you say, a Muslim face to it.
Well, I mean, they, you know, they are, Marcia. I mean, you know, The point is that what the West tries to get, and Israel has tried to get allies. I mean, if you remember how, for example, Hosni Mubarak would meet Israeli leaders in Sharm el-Sheikh, have a sort of love-in with them, and that would achieve a couple of things. It would dissipate Arab anger, because here's a Muslim and an Arab, embracing an Israeli, and the Israelis came out of that saying they were men of peace. So, I mean, I think that principle applies, that you get an ally in the Muslim world, and then you can somehow speak on behalf of Muslims. And I think that's very much going on now in Bahrain. And we've seen, of course, Robert Gates, the US Defense Secretary, be touring the region, meeting King Abdullah, and, as a Major General was in Bahrain as well. So certainly they're all heavily involved in that, and sugarcoating war. And if I can just one thing, having covered war for 30 years, there ain't no such thing. War is brutal, war is murderous, war kills people, it kills babies. And I'm afraid the West now has tried to present intervention as something which is sort of nice. It's made war nice. Never, never believe that. And anybody who's experienced war should know that. And in fact, on that subject, I think we've got Press TV correspondent Johnny Miller. I think he's in Benghazi. We've seen him the last few days running around from one place to another. Johnny, are you there?
Hi there. How are you?
I'm fine, Johnny. How are you, mate? Are you safe?
I am safe, yes. Safe and in Benghazi.
Okay.
I haven't been to the front line. I haven't been to the front line today and stayed in Benghazi, so I'm very safe.
Okay, but listen, I mean, we've just, and we can't be too long here because we come to the end of the show, but, we've seen the toing and froing of each side for the last 10 or 15 days. I mean, do you see an end of that, or do you see a kind of stalemate that's emerged now?
Well, quite frankly, there doesn't seem to be an end in sight. Yes, there's been stalemate between Brega and Ashdabia for almost a week now, and there doesn't seem to be an end in sight. The revolutionaries say they have a two-pronged strategy here, the military and the political, and the military doesn't seem to be getting anywhere. It's clear that Gaddafi forces are far better trained and equipped than revolutionary forces, and it's only NATO airstrikes which cancel that out. And politically, we haven't seen too many changes there either. There was hope that Gaddafi's regime would crumble, but there hasn't been too much crumbling happening either. So stalemate. And there doesn't seem to be an end in sight. I spoke to a British official earlier today who said that their aim is still a unified Libya with no Gaddafi, but day by day it's just becoming less and less clear how that's going to happen.
Johnny, thank you for that. So you actually mean a divided Libya might be a prospect for the future?
Well, possibly. People in the East are very scared of that. One reason they're not too keen on a ceasefire is because if there is a ceasefire, then that will make the front line area between Ashdabia and Brega more pronounced, and clarify a split in the country. So if there is a ceasefire, then that's a fear in the East that partition may well be the next step.
Okay, Johnny. Well, listen, thank you for that analysis, and stay safe, and hope to hear from you again on Press TV. We have another call-in. Bob from Wiltshire. Bob, how are you?
Hey, I'm fine. How about yourself?
Great, mate. And you got something to say about Libya, then? What's your thoughts?
Well, initially it was about, I might be ingenuous, but I sort of thought that the reason we're going for Gaddafi is because he's such a despot, like Mugabe and so on. We have been self-serving in the past by sucking up to him for financial reasons, but I don't think that that most of the people think that we're doing this for self-serving purposes. The point is that Gaddafi himself is completely self-serving, secretly not looking after his people, salting away billions.
No, but he was a tyrant. But, I mean, do you think that the West is there purely for altruistic reasons?
I would hope so.
But do you believe that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, well, there's
in the case of Britain, you see...
But why not, why not then, why not go to Bahrain? Why not go to Yemen? I mean, why Libya?
Because the man is about as nasty as you can get.
Well, there's been no indication when he's entered towns that he has actually committed atrocities at all. The sort of accusations that were being made, none of that's happened. When he's gone into towns that he's reoccupied, he hasn't done anything that would constitute a genocide.
See that because of the secret police. there was another thing I wanted to bring up, was about why does religion come into all this in the first place?
Well, I tell you, we haven't got a lot to talk about that, but, you know, because we come to the end of the show. Perhaps that's something for next week on religion. But listen, I appreciate you joining us, and thank you very much, but we are coming to the end of the show. So thanks for all your calls and messages. We'll have it next week. I'd love to join you, but stay tuned for the upcoming news on Press TV. And from me, Phil Rees, goodbye for now. Take care.